are being praised because you have studied, I don't know, gotten all levels of education. I'm not saying it is bad to get these things, but is it at the expense of your soul? Is it at the expense of your life? How many of you have built mansions? How many of you have arcades? How many of you have all these apartments? So many of you have them. But most of us, some of us have them at the expense of our souls. It is at the expense of your souls. The Bible is saying, even if he's satisfied with life and is praised because he's successful, he will join all his ancestors in death. The Bible is saying his wealth will not go with him to the grave. How many have been buried with their wealth? You know, I was listening to someone, and you know, some of these things we take it for granted, but God allows it to happen so that we can see through. Someone was saying that they had a vision where God took them to hell. Many of you might not believe this, but whether you believe it or not, when God does something, he has done it. And then right there, he sees the former president, Robert Mugabe, of was it Zimbabwe, in hell, you know, crying, grieving in pain, you know. And then another one says how they saw TB Joshua, you know, grieving in pain. Why am I bringing these examples? I'm trying to tell you that you could be great. You could have everything. You could have everything. These are people who had everything. But one, they didn't go with their riches to heaven, to hell. They didn't go with it wherever they have gone. They didn't go with it wherever they have gone. What am I saying? They gathered as much as they could here on earth, but they forgot to take care of their souls. What are you gathering that you're forgetting to take care of your soul? You could balance and have both the riches and at the same time take care of your soul. It is possible. You know, it is possible. Money is never enough. It is never enough, but you have to be wise. Those days before I had an encounter, I used to fear death. I used to get scared all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. But I later realized that the reason I used to fear death was because I wasn't certain of my soul. Because I knew all these bad things that I was doing. Because it wasn't okay. I knew deep down in my heart I was guilty of the things that I used to do. I knew that it wasn't right. So I kept on fearing. When someone dies, people go and weep and cry. Let me tell you, so many of us, the truth is, we might be weeping for the person who is gone, but the major weeping is we are weeping for ourselves. Because they have gone, they have lived their life. What have you lived? Where are you going when your turn comes? As you weep, you need to weep for yourself. As you weep, you need to remember that the time is coming, or any time you will be gone. But when you go, where will you go? When you go, where will you end up? Have you secured your soul, or you're busy securing the wealth of this world? Many rich people forget about God. They end up relying on their riches. That is true. So many of us, and God knew for sure that the reason why God gave so many scriptures about money and riches, he knew that money is a very tricky thing. There are very few rich people who you will find and are not proud. There are very few. Most of them, as soon as they get hold of this money, they think they have reached. They think they have reached. What does the Bible continue to say? The Bible says in Hebrews 13:5, keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have. For he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. God was so clear about this. He knew that when we get money, we focus more on money and forget about him. Let me tell you, there are people who God has denied riches, who God has denied extreme riches, money, because he knows their attitude, because he knows when they get this money, they are going to boast around, because he knows when they get this money, they will lose their soul. He knows us deep inside. He knows us inside out. So some of you, God is finding it hard to bless us because he knows at the end of it, you will lose your soul. And God is so much interested in your soul. He's hungry. Jesus is desperate. He wants each one of us to go to heaven. Whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you're disabled, Jesus wants all of us to go to heaven. The Bible continues to say in Matthew 6,